Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of April 12th, 2021. Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Sensi. Mr. Sensi. Can't hear him. Mr. Council Magno.
Here.
Ms. Gibbons.
Here.
Mr. Hannon.
Present.
Mr. Harrison.
Present.
Mr. McLean.
Here.
Mr. Mowry.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Present.
Let the record show 8 are present, and Mr. Sensi is online, but we're having a little bit of communication problems at this time. At this time, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn to chair announcements. There was an executive session of council conducted on March 22nd, 2021 for personnel items. And there was an executive session of council conducted on April 12th, tonight before we came out, 2021, for police personnel and legal issues. At this time, I would like to turn to the reports of the officials and the library director's report.
The Library Director's report.
Christine, can you please unmute yourself? Okay, we're having some technical difficulties. We will move on to the police chief's report. Chief O'Connor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Colonel, Council. Hello, everyone. Chief O'Connor here. Every year, we recognize our officers for their performance over the prior year. And what prior year we had. We not only had COVID to deal with the decon and quarantine issues, but the officers were also responding to opioid overdoses. It was a very bad year in Allegheny County, and Bethel Park was not immune from it. We lost several people, and we would have lost several more, except for the officers getting down on their knees and Narcaning people back to death, or excuse me, back to life from death, from near-death situations, and also using the AED to shock people back to life. On top of that, we had protests in neighboring communities around the South Hills, and we assisted there. And every protest that we went to, there was not one incident. Those incidents were of traffic and crowd control were handled with tact and diplomacy, and we got people to exercise their First Amendment rights in a peaceful way. So in an exceptional year, the 3 people that I'm going to call up were exceptional. And they're voted on by their peers. It's not something that I select them. Our staff, sworn and non-sworn alike, take a vote, and they come up with who are the 3 most dependable people this year, who pulled probably more than their share of the weight. And they're going to be honored tonight. So first I'm going to call up S6, Sergeant Colby Grubich. Colby works our night shift. He's also on our SHACOG team. He's a team leader. He has a very responsible, important position in SHACOG, and he's handled a lot of things that have come on his plate in a great manner. So in second place, I'm going to call up Detective Joelle Dixon. Detective Dixon's not only one of our detectives in our unit, and she's been working some important cases and search warrants and working with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office on an important case out of Bethel Park. It's a baseball. She also serves as a negotiator on the Shaycog CERT team. So if you have someone in a mental health crisis or a barricaded person, she's one of our go-to trained people to get those people out of the home and get the situation resolved peacefully. So thank you. So finally tonight, our award winner, the award winner, is our canine officer, Andrew Drew Jacobs. Andrew Drew Jacobs, come on up. Yeah, he's the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. I worked on that all day. So they all get a check, they get a nice frame certificate, and Drew gets a pin that he can wear. We also have a special guest here, the canine dog G's, with Officer Rachel Jacobs, and holding him at bay in the back because he's going to bite me if he gets up here. Dogs don't bite. And like me and Mr. O'Brien.
Where's G's at?
Oh, he's here. He's right there.
Gonna bring
There
him
he
up?
is.
Bring G's up.
Bring him up. Come on up, Rachel. Come on up. Where are you at now? Who are you with? No, where? Where? 6. So that's Rachel Jacobs is an officer with the city of Pittsburgh. She is currently assigned to Zone 6 in the West End. So they make a lovely trio here. So again, I not only want to thank them, I want to thank all BPPD officers. Good night, God bless.
We just want to know if you could train Mr. O'Brien to behave like that.
Every day's an adventure.
Beautiful.
The dog can sense criminal pasts. Questions? We good?
Okay, anything else, council? Hearing none, can we turn to the library director's report?
Okay, here I am. So just a few quick announcements about the library this evening. First, just a reminder that all youth classes and programs are going to remain virtual for the time being. As the weather gets nicer, we will be doing some things outside in Simmons Park in particular. Some of our adult classes are in person. One in particular, the Wise Walk, which is a 10-week walking program for adults 50 and older. We'll meet on Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. and at South Park at the Children's Playground. That will start Thursday, April 15th and continue for 10 weeks. We have a very cool program coming called Ancestry Genetics and What It Really Tells Us on Wednesday, April 24th at 6 p.m. Come meet Dr. Melinda Massard from the University of Pittsburgh and learn about ancestry DNA. And what we can learn about ourselves. This will be hosted in council chambers. And fundraiser, pop-up book sales coming up this Sunday, April 18th from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. We'll be under the tent in EV True Value Hardware parking lot. So come on down and get some books. And just a special thank you to the patron who just happened to be in the library about a month back when a staff member experienced a medical emergency. She is an RN. She stepped in and literally saved our staff person's life until EMT used the AED, and then when the EMTs got there, they took her. We're very grateful. She did not want to be named, but thank you for what you did for us. And that is all that I have this evening.
Thank you. Were there any questions? Hearing none, can we turn to the fire chief's report?
What? Yep. Good evening, everybody. Deputy Chief Russ Beeson, Bethel Fire. For the month of March 2020, we had a total of 24 calls. That's 1 structure fire, 1 brush fire, 1 CO alarm, 2 gas leaks, 2 odors of something burning, 10 good intent, 1 CO alarm, and 6 total fire alarms. Fund drive letters are going to be going out towards the end of the month. They'll be in resident box early. We ask that all residents continue to support your Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. Bethel Park Fire Company community outreach requests are available again. We're doing station tours or anything yet, but we are doing fire prevention requests where we will come out to you, to your meeting, or to your event. To arrange that, please call 412-835-1127 and connect to the fire prevention line, leave a message, and they'll call you to get it scheduled. Outside of that, that's all we have.
Any questions from council? Hearing none, thank you very much. Can we turn to the mayor's report and Mayor Allen?
Is this on? Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple items I have. Want to remind everyone that our No Cook Tuesdays is still going on for another couple weeks. It'll end on April 27th. That's from 4 to 7. If you're looking for a place to go and you don't have to cook, please consider coming to the community center for our last couple No Cook Tuesdays. Then right after that stops, our farmers market will start down in South Park parking lot. That's May 4th from 3 to 7. It'll run into the fall. It'll once again be held at the old swimming pool in South Park. And as of now, we have over 40 plus vendors sign up to participate. And I know Chuck Stover's been working on this, but it's not too early to think about our firework display. It'll be scheduled for Saturday, June 26th, with the rain out date of June 27th. And right now, Chuck has secured parking at Lowe's, Hillcrest Shopping Center, Giant Eagle Walmart, Shop and Save, St. Germain, Hamilton Presbyterian Church, and Cool Springs. So there'll be a lot of places that you can go and watch the fireworks from. Our spring cleanup is scheduled for next week, Saturday, April 24th. If you have a group that's interested in participating, and we do have quite a few people that participate every year, please call Janet Davin at 412-831-6800, extension 211, and everything will be supplied to you. And finally, there's actually a little commercial on BPTV, but we're kicking off our Spring Makeover Challenge. The program is a joint effort of the Buy Bethel Initiative and the Bethel Park Kindness Project. It'll run from Thursday, April 15th through Sunday, June 20th. To participate, residents or Bethel Park businesses simply need to post before and after photos to the Municipality of Bethel Park Facebook page under a special Spring Makeover post. The categories include windows/door decorating, planting and growing, landscaping, water gardening, and home improvement. The winners will be announced at the July council meeting, and we'll also have how-to videos running through this period that you can go on our YouTube channel and see how you can spruce up your house, your yard, or whatever. I'm sorry, you go to our webpage. I'm sure it'll be on the YouTube also, but it's the webpage of www.bethelpark.net. So good luck to everyone who's going to participate, and we look to see the winners here in July. And that's my report.
Any questions for the mayor? Hearing none, thank you very much, Mayor. At this time, can we turn to the approval of the minutes? And Mr. Hannan.
Minutes, I move we approve the minutes from the March 8th, 2021 regular council meeting.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannan, second by Ms. Gibbons, that we approve the minutes from the March 8th, 2021 regular council meeting. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. At this time, I'd like to turn to the approval of the bills and payrolls, and Mr. Hannon.
I move that we approve bill list number 041221 in the amount of $1,918,759.85.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Hannon, second by Mr. Harrison, that we move to approve bill list 041221 in the amount of $1,918,759.85. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. At this time, I would like to turn to the resident comments section for non-agenda items. We have 2 residents signed up to speak. Teresa Vizza, if you could come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, and we do have a 3-minute limit.
Teresa Vizza, 7061 Lawrence Drive. Okay, first of all, I read about the updates for Millennium Park, and I think it's great that you're finally, getting some extra things there. And just want to kind of mention again that it's still the perfect place, even with the additions. It's even better for pickleball up there. And please search the property to find a spot that you could get pickleball courts in. And I'm hopeful that you can find something and configure the courts any way you want. And I know we're not doing it this year. It's for next year. So whatever you can do, I'm willing to help, walk around the park and look with you, anything you need. And thanks again for getting the park going again.
Thank you, and we appreciate, I know Mr. Harrison and Mr. Sensei have brought it up to us. We are searching. We've got a couple locations. We need to do a little more background search, but we will certainly keep you apprised.
Yes, and we really still like Millennium #1.
Okay, thank you. Jim Sheets, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, James Sheets, 4909 Library Road, Bethel Park. Mr. Mayor, member of council, I wanted to use my allotted 3 minutes to introduce myself, and as I look around this room, I realize that I recognize a lot of the people in this room. But for those of you that don't know me, I am Jimmy Sheets. My mother was an elected member of this community for many years, Alice Sheets, and I am
Could you move a little closer to the
Yes.
microphone, please?
I am here because I am trying to do the same exact thing. I am a candidate for the Court of Common Plea in Allegheny County. I'm a licensed attorney. I went to St. Vincent College and then Duquesne Law School. I am pretty much a lifetime resident of Bethel Park. I've left for very short periods of time, but always come back. I reside here now and am a single father raising a 10-year-old daughter who's in Lincoln Elementary School. The reason I wanted to address this body and the community was you are the elected leaders of this community. Pennsylvania is unique in the fact that when we run for judge in Allegheny County, our geographical location of residence appears on the ballot with our name. When you go to vote, it'll say Jimmy Sheets, Bethel Park.
If I can ask you, we don't normally get political here, if you could just stick to Bethel Park, please.
Yeah, I was cautioned not to get political. That is, in essence, the reason I'm here, was to introduce myself to the elected leaders of this community, because on the ballot, I will be representing Bethel Park. And if anyone wanted to reach me, I can provide information, because I like to feel that I'm running countywide, but I'm running as a resident of Bethel Park. And I realize I'm also not supposed to comment on agenda items, but I would like to also personally congratulate the officers that were honored this evening for their service. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Sheets. Do we have any other residents who would like to speak? Hearing none, can we turn to general policy and finance and Mr. McLean, and we have no residents signed up to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mowry. First agenda item is Resolution R4-12-21A, Allegheny County 2020 Hazard Mitigation Plan. I move that we formally adopt Resolution R4-12-21A, adopting the Allegheny County 2020 Hazard Mitigation Plan per the Municipal Manager's Memorandum dated March 24th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we formally adopt Resolution R4-12-21A, adopting the Allegheny County 2020 Hazardous Mitigation Plan per the Municipal Manager's Memorandum dated March 24th, 2021. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Mowry?
Mr. McLean.
Just so folks know, what we're approving tonight is our adoption of an Allegheny County emergency plan that has been revised. This is an update to the 2015 plan, which we had also previously adopted. By adopting this plan, it will allow us to remain eligible for federal and state FEMA and PEMA hazardous mitigation grant money in the event that we need it.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Are there any additional comments? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Second agenda item is the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company radio purchase. I move that we approve the purchase of new radios and chargers for the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company for the amount of $134,334.50 per the Municipal Manager's Memorandum dated March 25, 2021.
Yes.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Mr. Harrison that we approve the purchase of new radios and chargers for the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company for the amount of $134,334.50 per the Municipal Manager's Memorandum dated March 25th, 2021. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Mowry.
Mr. McLean.
By this motion, we are authorizing a purchase of new radios and chargers for the Volunteer Fire Company. This was approved through the co-op purchasing CoStar system that we use so that we can get the best price available. Essentially, this will allow all of the members of the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company to have new handheld radios, also give the line officers a radio, and then put a radio in the riding positions of all the large vehicles. The funds will be paid out of the fire fund for these purchases.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Next agenda item is Resolution R4-12-21B, Bethel Park Historical Society request for small games of chance license. I move that we pass Resolution R4-12-21B, acknowledging that the Bethel Park Historical Society is a legitimate civic organization in Bethel Park.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we pass Resolution R4-12-21B, acknowledging that the Bethel Park Historical Society is a legitimate civic organization in Bethel Park. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Mowry?
Mr. McLean.
The purpose behind this motion is in order for any organization to obtain a small games of chance license, they need to be recognized by their local municipality as a legitimate civic organization. And after thorough investigation of the Bethel Park Historical Society, including many of its members, we've decided to go ahead and approve it as a legitimate civic organization.
I'm not so sure about the president.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. And just for the public's knowledge, I will be recusing myself on this vote because I am the president currently of the Bethel Park Historical Society. And I'll remember those comments.
I'm glad you will.
Any other discussion from council? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 with Mr. Maury recusing himself, and I appreciate most of you. Mr. McLean.
Next item is reclassification of parcel 391-H-64. I move that we approve the request to reclassify parcel 391-H-64 on Portia Drive.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we approve the request to reclassify parcel 391H64 on Portia Drive. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Maury?
Mr. McLean.
This is a motion to approve a single parcel that is a home that has been incorrectly located in Baldwin by the county, and it will now become classified as being within the municipal boundaries of Bethel Park. Baldwin has already approved this, and the Allegheny County has confirmed that there's nothing additional that it will require after we adopt this motion tonight.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Any additional comments? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons. Yes. Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Maury.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Next agenda item is network equipment purchase recommendation. I move that we accept the low bid of $19,425 from GenLore Integration per the Director of Special Projects memorandum dated March 30, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Mr. Harrison that we accept a low bid of $19,425 from GenLore Integration per the Director of Special Projects memorandum dated March 30th, 2021. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Maury?
Mr. McLean.
This motion is to approve the purchase of some of the parts and core components of our ongoing upgrading of our IT infrastructure. We put it out for bids, received 3 bids, and the bid that is being proposed to be approved by our motion tonight was the low bid, and in fact was the best of the bids, even if it wasn't the low bid. So that's the purpose of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Any additional comments? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Maury.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Mr. Maury, there are no additional agenda items under General Policy and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Are there any additional items? I just have one. As many of you heard, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act on March 6, 2021. While we have not received any official correspondence about when, where, and what the municipality of Bethel Park will receive as part of the bill. The council and mayor discussed this at our last committee meeting and wanted to be prepared for if and when the funding becomes available. In order to to better serve the community, we have elected to put together a subcommittee of council and mayor to research, review information as it becomes available so we can quickly react to Bethel Park residents. We have named this committee the American Rescue Plan Bethel Park. We have named Vice President of Council Jim Hannan as the chair, and the committee will consist of Mr. Todd Sensi, Dr. Timothy Campbell, Mr. Donald Harrison, and Mayor Allen will also serve on this committee. At this time, I would like to ask Councilman Hannan to provide an update to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Mowry. Well, there are many components to the American Rescue Plan. We have received no direct information from the federal government as to when, how much, and what we are permitted to use the funds for. Last Friday, we did receive a presentation from Allegheny County Council that put together for the Center of Inclusive Growth that we are currently reviewing. While there are many components to the legislation, some initial guidelines were established by Council for the potential funding to the municipality of Bethel Park. Those include funds should not be used for groups and organizations that have already received any stimulus funding from the county, state, or federal resources. We believe the funds should be used to help those who have fallen through the cracks. Based on preliminary research, funds cannot be used to lower taxes or to pay directly into pension funds, but may be used for capital projects. If a 501c3 nonprofit were to apply, they must be registered and show that they are in good standing with the state. Most importantly, anybody that does not apply must be able to show lost revenue directly to COVID-19 in 2020. While there are very preliminary guidelines, they may be subject to change based on learning more information about the American Rescue Plan. We will keep everybody updated as the committee learns more about the relief plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hannon and the committee. As Mr. Hannon said, we've got no official correspondence, and everybody has their own interpretation, but we as a council want to be prepared so we can react quickly. So I'd like to thank everybody for their participation and in keeping us up to date. Okay, at this time, can we turn to health, safety, and welfare, and Mr. O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Mowry. There's only one item tonight on health, safety, and welfare. Resolution R4 1221C, disposition of records. I move that we approve Resolution R4 1221C for the disposition of police records.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. O'Brien and second by Mr. Harrison that we approve Resolution R4-12-21C for disposition of police records. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons. Yes. Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. O'Brien,
Mr. Chairman, there are no other items under health, safety, and welfare.
are there any additional items?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dr. Campbell.
I always feel this is appropriate to talk about after, when I hear the word health. Today, the Pennsylvania State Department of Health authorized easement of the vaccination protocols, that anybody really in the state now could be 16 and older. It doesn't have to be, with a 1A cohort with a pre-existing medical condition or because of age constraints. The science is strong. It remains strong. It's been strong since Edward Jenner in the late 1700s about the power of the vaccine. And the messenger RNA platforms have have a decade worth of data also to say that they're very safe. I really don't care where folks get their vaccine. I don't care which vaccine you get. I just like to get it in as many people's arms as possible, because this is what I consider from a medical perspective truly a no-brainer. It really, truly is. There are vanishingly few contraindications to getting the vaccine. And just the data, just in the lives saved, are so stunning, it's not even funny. I've mentioned it to this august body a couple times before, but with a 1.7% national mortality rate for COVID, framed in the fact that we could do a clinic with almost 3,000 people, that saves 50 lives. 50 of your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, for each clinic, for goodness sake. And again, we were inoculating the 1A cohort. These are the folks with the higher mortalities, the higher risks, the immunosuppressed, the frail elderly, those who have other pre-existing medical conditions. And that subset of people, we were probably seeing on the order of about maybe 2 to 3 times that number. So perhaps up to 100 to 150 people saved. Now, your Constitution guarantees that we cannot force you. Nobody's going to ever force you to go ahead and have a vaccine. That's not in discussion. I've been called 4 times in the last month specifically about that. You can't force vaccines on me. Nobody's going to. You've got your personal choice and your freedoms and your liberties to go ahead and determine what you want to do and what you do in your pursuit of happiness and your well-being. But please, I strongly, strongly encourage. We're seeing glimmers at the end of the end of this pandemic. We're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So I would strongly encourage anybody to get it. If you have any questions, want to talk out some things with me, I'm like a convenience store. We never close. Please call. Thank you, Mr. Mowry.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. I would like to acknowledge again Spartan Pharmacy this past weekend. They held a clinic. I believe their goal was to inoculate the second shot of in excess of 3,000 people. What a great event. How well organized. From the time you came in to the time you left, I don't think it was any more than a half hour, and you spent 15 minutes waiting after you got the shot. So I would like to thank Spartan Pharmacy. I would like to thank our community center staff, the police, to keep it orderly, but most of all, the volunteers, the people that gave of their time on Saturday, whether it's the morning shift or the afternoon shift. You know, everybody working there for the most part are all volunteers, and there's probably 100 people that work there during the course of a day. That's just one center, one day. But the countless thousands of people that have done this in other locations, it's remarkable. Not surprising that the people of Bethel Park stepped up, but I just want on behalf of the council and the community, thank all the volunteers for the time, and Dr. Campbell and everybody responsible and our staff for putting this on. Okay, any other additional items?
Mr. Mowry?
Mr. Consul Magno.
I'd just like to highlight last Thursday and Friday, the Bethel Park Shade Tree Commission partnered with the Tree Pittsburgh and the Bethel Park School District to plant over 100 trees at Neil Armstrong Middle School. This was an opportunity for the students to work with the Shade Tree Commission and Tree Pittsburgh to understand how important trees are to our environment. The say that 3 times fast. The Shade Tree Commission applied for a grant through Tree Pittsburgh and was awarded a grant for 300 trees to be planted over a 2-year period. I would like to personally thank the Shade Tree Commission for applying for the grant, Tree Pittsburgh for making the grant available, and the Bethel Park School District and students for participating. We are hoping to for another tree planting ceremony in the fall of 2021 or in the spring of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Consul Magno. At this time, can we turn to Public Works and Maintenance and Mr. Consul Magno?
No, I think you skipped somebody, didn't you?
Planning and zoning.
I'm sorry, Planning and Zoning.
I think you always skip her, don't you?
It's like I'm invisible over here, but that's
The
okay.
staff, Lawrence screwed up my computer
I don't
here.
get a microphone, you know.
Don't blame him.
My apologies. Is he laughing over there?
Always blaming
I'll have the
someone
last
else.
laugh.
Come on,
Okay.
come on.
I apologize, Ms. Gibbons, Planning and Zoning.
Parkside Center Security Reduction Number 2. I move that we approve the Parkside Center Partial Security Reduction Number 2 in the amount of $449,995.70 per the interim municipal planners memorandum dated April 8th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Gibbons, Planning and Zoning Chair, second by Mr. Hannon, that we approve the Parkside Center Partial Security Reduction Number 2 in the amount of $449,995.70 per the interim municipal planners memorandum dated April 8th, 2021. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Mowry?
Mr. McLean.
I'm just going to announce prior to the vote that I'll be recusing myself on this vote as I provide legal services to the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Are there any additional items?
Mr. Mowry?
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes, I just wanted to explain a little bit this, when there's a development, they are required to provide the security bond, and once they have been inspected and the work has been completed, then this money is refunded. So that is what we are voting on.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbons. Are there any additional questions? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consul Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Ms. Gibbons.
There are no additional agenda items this
Thank-
evening.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbons. Are there any additional items from council? Now can we turn to Public Works and
Oh,
Maintenance?
you're saving the best for last, sir. Last month, we approved the 2021 road program, and the contract has been executed. Mealy and Sons will begin within the next few weeks, and we'll be starting with stormwater and sanitary inlet repair before the paving can begin. If your street is to be paved, you will be notified directly of when the work will take place. Also, if you would like to follow the municipality of Bethel Park on Facebook, we will be providing current updates as the paving begins. You can check on Bethel Park website under Community Services to see what roads will be paved in 2021. With that being said, I have a list of items here, and you understand why I made that announcement, because a lot of them concern stormwater maintenance and sanitary sewer cleaning. So, first item, sodium bicarbonate contract. And this isn't the sodium bicarbonate that we would take for any indigestion that we receive from this council. So, I move that we accept the low bid of 0.03634 per pound, 3-year average from Barber's Chemical Incorporated per the wastewater treatment plant superintendent's memorandum dated March 11th, 2021.
Second?
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno, second by Ms. Gibbons, that we accept a low bid of .03634 per pound, 3-year average for Barber's Chemical Inc. per the wastewater treatment plant superintendent's memorandum dated March 11th, 2021. Any discussion of this item?
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
To further my agenda items here, I just want to recognize Stacy Graff, our Director of Engineering. Each one of these items, and I got A through J, the items have been put out to bid, and in each instance, they have been under bid. So that's a savings to our community, and it's a tribute to Stacy, and I want to personally thank her, publicly thank her for the efforts that she puts forth through her job each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consolmagno. Any additional comments? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
The second item is 2021 Pavement Rejuvenator Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $144,000 from Pavement Technology Incorporated per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 11th, 2021.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno, second by Mr. Harrison, that we accept the low bid of $144,000 from Pavement Technology, Inc., per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 11th, 2021. Any comments on this item?
Oh, sure. Mr. Murray, this is a pavement topping that will go on our streets, I think it's 2 years afterwards, to preserve and extend the life of the roads. This is based upon our recommendation of Stacy Graff.
Thank you, Mr. Consolmagno. Any additional comments? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
Mr. Murray, to not belabor my agenda tonight, but items C through H concern stormwater management, cleaning, and repairs. This all needs to be done prior to most of our paving, so these are the items C through H. So, 2021 storm sewer CCTV and cleaning contract. I move that we accept the low bid of $137,400 from Insight Pipe Contracting per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 12th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno, second by Mr. Harrison, that we accept a low bid of $137,400 from Insight Pipe Contracting per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 12, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council Magno.
Our next item, 2021 Storm Sewer Repair Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $219,265 from Roto-Rooter Services Company per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 12th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno, second by Mr. Harrison, that we accept the low bid of $219,265 from Roto-Rooter Services Company per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 12, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council Magno.
Next item, 2021 Sanitary Sewer MH Rehab Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $89,600 from State Pipe Services Incorporated per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno, second by Mr. Harrison, that we accept a low bid of $89,600 from State Pipe Services Incorporated per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council Magno.
Next item is the 2021 Sanitary Sewer Lining Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $256,650 from Insight Pipe Contracting LLC per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno, second by Mr. Harrison, that we accept a low bid at $256,650 from Insight Pipe Contracting LLC per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Ms. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council Magno,
Next
you're a big
item,
chatty tonight.
Next item, 2021 Sanitary Sewer CCTV and MH Inspection Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $196,355 from Insight Pipe Contracting LLC per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno, second by Ms. Gibbons, that we accept a low bid of $196,355 from Insight Pipe Contracting LLC per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Council Magno.
Next item is 2021 Sanitary Sewer Repair Project. I move that we accept the low bid of $217,265 from Roto-Rooter per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Council Magno, second by Ms. Gibbons, that we accept a low bid at $217,265 from Roto-Rooter per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mallory,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
Almost done. Resolution R4-12-21D, Pine Tree Park Improvements Act 13, GTRP grant. I move that we approve Resolution R4-12-21D to apply for GTRP grant in the amount of $200,000 with a $55,465 match per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno, second by Ms. Gibbons, that we approve Resolution R4-12-21D to apply for the GTRP grant in the amount of $200,000 with a $55,465 match per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 15, 2021. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mallory,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
This is the last item on the agenda. Resolution R4-12-21E, Thunderwood Drive Storm Sewer Project, Penvest Loan. I move that we approve Resolution R4-12-21E to apply for a Penvest loan per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 16th, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno, second by Ms. Gibbons, that we approve Resolution R4-12-21E to apply for a Penvest loan per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated March 16th, 2021. Just for the record, I will be abstaining from this vote as I currently serve on the Penvest Board of Directors. Is there any additional questions? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 with one abstention. Mr. Consolmagno.
Mr. Maury,
You
that is
spent all
all.
our money. Have nothing left.
Thank you, and to thank the community for this time to present these worthwhile projects. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consolmagno. Are there any additional items?
Mr. Maury.
Mr. Hannan.
I'd like to update some issues in the third ward. As far as Birch Tree Park. In 2020, a stormwater project was completed to protect the neighborhood. As part of the stormwater project, the playground equipment had to be removed. While we'd hoped to get the new playground installed in the fall of last year, unfortunately, with COVID-19, everything was delayed. We're in the process of sourcing new playground equipment, and we'll narrow it down to two options. We'll then allow the residents in the neighborhood to select the playground that will be installed. Our goal for the neighborhood parks is to have each park have its own identity and attractions, so stay tuned for more information over the coming weeks. And another particular item is the flea market will not be held in the Port Authority lot this year. There was a complication with the contract, and we are currently working on an alternate location. We hope to have an alternate location announced in the coming weeks, so stay tuned on that one too. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Hannan. I would also like to mention that Oak Tree Park is another park, as Mr. Hannan mentioned, had some stormwater management work done last year. We had hoped to get the playground equipment in, but unfortunately with COVID, things have been delayed. Just to let everybody know in the area, we'll be putting out some announcements. We are going to be relocating the shelter, making the playground a little bit bigger. And as Mr. Hannan mentioned, we're going to be narrowing the selection of equipment down to 2 and asking the neighborhood to vote on what they think would be best for playground equipment for the park. And it too will have its own identity, but I cannot disclose at this time. But we will soon. But just a lot of things going on. The grant we did, I think, for Pine Tree Park One of the things we do in our long-range plan is plan 5 years out. We apply for grants to help offset the cost, and it's good to plan ahead. So these grants, while we're applying today, they won't come to fruition until late fall or sometime next year. So rest assured, we're working on it to bring as much money back from Harrisburg as we possibly can. We usually send more than we get back, so we got to try to get back what we can. Are there any additional items?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dr. Campbell.
there's nothing really sexy and attractive about talking about sanitary sewers and stormwater work. I just did some quick math, and Mr. Consumaglio recently just spent $1.25 million, but we were budgeted $2 million. And to comment, to echo his reports also, I mean, that saving of almost $750,000, really great kudos to Stacy Graff and really everybody else in the Public Works and Maintenance Department for all they do. That's government being done effectively and efficient, and I'm grateful for that.
No, I just want to echo, if you see people when it's raining, you see people out looking into sewers, that's our Public Works Department and engineering staff. As we try and do different things to eliminate the infiltration into the sanitary sewer. One of the things that our Public Works staff implemented late last fall, early this year, is during heavy rain events, go out and look at it. We have all the monitoring and our municipal authorities overseeing everything that's been done, but we're going out and taking a visual inspection and hopefully be able to pick up some areas of concern, things that we can look a little deeper on to make sure that, we can fix any of the problems we currently have. But if there is no other comments, a motion to adjourn by
Second.
Mr. Hannon, second by Mr. Campbell. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned, and good night, everyone.